Everyone out there, how's everyone today? Boy, things just continue to go downhill, kind of, don't they? Wanted to talk about a few more things today. Trying to talk about something a little more positive. Don't want it to be negative every day, because people just get tired of that and fatigued. So come up with a couple things here to talk about on the positive side. Bad financial advice seems to be rampant. And in the good times, people kind of just accept it. And hey, maybe it is good advice. And it takes a time like this maybe to realize that maybe it's not such good financial advice after all. So I want to talk about a bunch of that. First, I just want to touch on something really quick. Wisconsin just issued a 30-day stay-at-home thing now, starting Wednesday. As far as I know, that's the longest one of any state that's been issued yet, for 30 days. That's pretty extreme. Kind of concerned about that. Of course, there is a whole bunch of activities that are exempt from that, and trucking is one of them. Also, not trying to beat a dead horse, but talking about currency controls and that. Told you I would speak up when I saw something, and I saw as part of the recent stimulus bill that was a good thing it got rejected, but they snuck a thing in there about a digital currency law. So we dodged a bullet there. I'm sure they'll try again. We'll see. Don't know all the details of it, but it was, in the name of safety and getting rid of cash, getting away from cash. So that right there is cause for concern. That's kind of what I was talking about, starting everything. The president seems to think we'll be through this by Easter. Doesn't really jive kind of with what the governors and people are doing, so I'm sure we'll see a big battle over things. And of course, we'll lose like we always do. But it'd be nice if it, get over sooner the better. Now, what I want to talk about in the video today is it doesn't do a lot of good to sit here and dwell on all the bad things happening constantly. Of course, it's good to talk about them, keep up on them. But what if we start thinking about coming out of this? What to do going forward to create a really strong, unshakable foundation. So when things like this happen again, whether it's illness, natural disaster, back 2008 when we had the financial crisis, whether it's man-made, natural disaster, whatever, your finances are so solid that you don't have to panic like this every time. It's kind of what I want to focus on today. So let's start with the biggest financial lie out there. Maybe not the biggest, but one that probably affects the most people. Oh, first I gotta say, legally, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a CPA. I'm not an attorney. Seek the advice of a professional always when you're handling your finances, but maybe after watching this video you won't be interested in consulting a professional. It's up to you, but I have to say that. So the first one is the big lie out there of don't pay off your mortgage early. I understand why they say that. I fully understand opportunity cost of money, time value of money, and mathematically it all makes sense. The theory is, why would you pay off a mortgage at 4%, whatever you're getting, when you could take that extra money and invest it at 7 to 10%? It's a 3 to 6% difference in your money. It makes sense, but as in most everything that people, especially financial advisors, forget about, there's this thing, talked about it a few videos ago, it's called risk. And risk is real. We have to assign a number to it. I say the difference between a 4% mortgage and 7% investment is 3% on paper. But I think when you assign a risk value to it, it's more like 6 to 10%. And if something goes wrong, I guess it's 100%, isn't it? Like it is now. Everybody wants to do the right thing and makes the most amount of money. I'm sure everybody knows, or is gonna real soon know, somebody that is laid off, lost their job, and is just gonna get financially crushed. And I bet you if you sit down and ask them, I bet they wish they had their house paid off right now. And if they're well-to-do, they probably have a financial advisor that told them not to do that. Or they had their house paid off and the guy told them to go borrow a bunch of money against it because it makes sense to be in debt on a mortgage and take that money and invest it. There's some terminologies they use that really rub me the wrong way. First of all, some of these people that tell you to go out and buy a mortgage or you own a mortgage, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You don't own a mortgage owns you. A mortgage is not an asset. A mortgage is a liability, and it's a huge liability. It's the biggest liability most people will ever have in their lives. So you should not be proud to own a mortgage. It's ridiculous. If anybody ever told me that, I would resist the urge to slap them in the face, and I'd just get up and walk out. Nobody that stupid is going to advise me on my money. Harvard or Yale or Princeton or not. Just remember that. Also, it's a quality of life issue. People get sick. Everybody knows somebody that has cancer. Major illnesses are just devastating. If you or your spouse got sick, it's devastating. The last thing you want to be worrying about is how you're going to make your house payment. Now, I get that. People can't necessarily pay cash for a house and you have to take a mortgage. I'm only really talking about if you're trying to decide to pay extra on the mortgage, or if you get an inheritance or something, you want to pay it off, or you save up the money to pay it off. It's always a good idea to pay your mortgage off early. It's a quality of life issue. It is a risk issue. And hey, you lose your job, go through a time like this where you'll be glad that you did. Now, they'll also tell you that you should keep your mortgage for the tax deduction. Second biggest lie, second worst piece of advice out there. I'm going to show you why. I'm not just going to throw accusations around. Well, I drew up a little cheat sheet here. I can show you. So first of all, let's just assume taxes right now, tax brackets are pretty favorable. You can go all the way up to, I think it's $78,000 and still be in the 22% federal tax bracket. So if we assume 22% federal taxes, and then depending on if you're not self-employed or what, you'll have a few extra percent. State tax will be a couple extra percent. So I'm just going to assume a 30% tax rate. This works. It doesn't matter what the tax rate. I just had to come up with a number. So let's say the average person pays about $5,000 a year in mortgage interest. Now, you only get to deduct the interest on that mortgage, not the whole payment. You get that tax form at the end of the year from your bank. It tells you how much interest you paid, and you deduct that off your income before you pay taxes. Let's say the average person pays $5,000 a year in mortgage interest. That might seem high to you. You might live in an area where it's way less, but I guarantee you there's people that pay way more than that. So we're just going to use that. Once again, this math works no matter what the number is. So, right here, you paid $5,000 a year in mortgage interest. What you're really saying you're saving is the taxes on that $5,000. At 30% tax rate, interest on $5,000, I'm sorry, not interest, taxes on $5,000 is $1,500. 30% of $5,000 is $1,500. Okay, that's the math right there. There's no more to it than that. Now, so basically what you're saying is you should stay in debt so that you can pay the bank $5,000 a year to keep from paying $1,500 in taxes. Just think about that for a second. It's idiotic, isn't it? So to keep an extra $1,500 in your pocket, you're going to pay out $5,000. No sense. Pay the $1,500 in taxes. I'll come and kick you in the crotch, write you a receipt for $5,000. You give me the $5,000. You keep your $1,500 and feel a little bit of pain. I'll be happy. I just got $5,000 off you. We'll call it a consultation fee. That's tax deductible. You get the same tax deduction. I'll have $5,000. You get to keep your $1,500. should be happy. It's exactly the same thing you did giving that money to the bank. So just think about that. Now, if anybody tries to convince you differently, your financial advisor or a banker, whoever, draw this up and show it to them and say, you explain it to me. You explain to me how that's a good idea. And if you can't, we're done here. You don't need to talk anymore. We'll go somewhere else and the adults will talk. So there's that. Now, also, what we didn't figure into there is a risk. You lose your job, you can't make the payment, you lose your house, all kinds of stuff like that. So that's pretty basic right there. We'll leave that at that. That it's always a good idea to pay off your mortgage. Okay. Now, one thing I'll add to that: if you're looking for a tax deduction and you're wanting to throw money away like that, why would you go and beat them down on the interest rate? You know, at 4% interest on the mortgage, you're only paying $5,000. If you're looking for a tax deduction, man, you would want to pay like 10 or 20% interest. Let's get that up there and get all this tax deduction we deserve. It makes no sense. So don't let anybody lie to you on that. Next thing kind of ties into that, more so in your business, trucking, what have you. Makes no difference in any business. That is staying in debt to avoid taxes. A lot of guys will say, my CPA, my tax person says I got to buy a truck every 3 years for write-offs and this and that. No, we just did the math on that. Now, something I want to add, we're not talking about depreciation at this point, okay? We'll talk about that later on in a different video. We're just talking about interest on your loans, okay? If you went out and paid cash for that truck, you still take all the depreciation, but you won't pay any interest. Save up. Now, that being said, if you need equipment, you got to buy it. You got to stay in business. You got to run. But that's an acceptable reason. You don't go in unnecessary debt because they don't figure the risk on that either. Look at a time like right now. My equipment's paid for, and there's a lot of people. The future is uncertain. Freight is uncertain. Yeah, it's good now. We don't know how long this thing is going to drag out. That's risk management. I talked about that in a previous video. Go back and watch that. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is having cash on hand. Financial people will tell you that you should be all in the market all the time, because having cash on hand, you're losing money due to inflation. So if you have $20,000 in your savings account, you're earning 0.5% interest on it when you could be making 7% in the market. Absolutely, that math is accurate, but it's not about math all the time. Having an emergency fund can keep you from losing your house in a time like this, can keep you from losing your truck, keep all kinds of bad things from happening to you. So don't let anybody tell you that it's a bad idea to have a lot of cash on the sidelines. You should always have some cash on the sidelines. You should never be all in the market. You should never be all in anything. Yeah, you're going to lose some money to inflation. They say, well, you shouldn't put your money under your mattress because you'll lose money to inflation. The value of that value of that money goes down every year due to inflation, and you're not earning anything. It's not always about earning something. We always got to remember that. Nobody puts a number on risk or a value on it. And it's one of the biggest things in our lives, and it takes a time like this of what we're going through now to kind of hash that out and remind us. To go along with that, you should never be all in on any one thing. There's a whole world of investments out here. Talked about a few of them. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. I've been doing too much talking lately. Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, precious metals, real estate. Don't forget about real estate. There's all kinds of new investments always coming out. There's a whole world out here. Be well diversified, but do your homework. Don't invest in garbage. That's we'll get to that next. But if you follow good rules, you don't have to take a ton of risk. You don't have to go out and invest in risky things. People, oh, I only got 20 years to retirement, man. I gotta get a high return and make a lot of money. Well, maybe not. You also don't want to lose a lot of money. But never all one thing. Okay? Heck, even in a roundabout way, a truck can be an investment or an asset. It makes you a lot of money, although it's a depreciating asset. You got to have it though if you want to be in business. So there's a lot of things. Investing in yourself. Sometimes if you can take a weekend course to educate yourself on taxes or investing or accounting, that can pay back more than any investment. To gain knowledge is always a great investment. I'm not in favor of going to like a 4-year college, because 80 grand for, we won't even get into that, whatever. All right, so we'll stop with that. The last one I want to cover is investing in things you don't understand. It's a sure way to lose money. It's almost a guarantee, unless you get really lucky. A few years ago, Bitcoin was the new hottest and latest and greatest thing. I'm not against Bitcoin. I love the blockchain technology. I think it's going to change the world. But I'm not investing in Bitcoin. Bitcoin is not an investment. Bitcoin is speculation. It's too volatile. It's very complex. And it's all virtual currency. There's no hard asset behind it. Now, don't get me wrong, our money is the same way, but people understand our money, our financial system. We knew we were headed for a bubble in Bitcoin when people that knew nothing about it went and mortgaged their homes so that they could go out and buy Bitcoin when it was at $38,000 per Bitcoin. That's how you know when you're in a bubble. They had no idea what it was. They just knew it was the latest, greatest, hottest thing, and look what happened. They lost everything. There's people that lost everything in that. So if you understand it well, I mean very well, go ahead and put a little bit of money into it. But that is one of the most speculative investments you're going to find. So if you are going to put money into it, it's going to be a very small amount, because it's extremely risky. So I just wanted to lay out some good things for, if you have to start over, kind of rebuild. We want to lay a broad financial foundation. Think of when they build a skyscraper. There's about as much concrete underground in the foundation as there is above the ground, because they need to build a big, strong, wide foundation so that building don't tip over. Think of that, how you want to build your financial foundation, so that in times like this, it's unshakable. Now, there's always going to be unforeseen things, but you can prepare for a lot of it, and also be in a position to help others, help your loved ones, help your kids. So, all that being said, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Let me know if you like videos like this. I sure would like to do more of them. It's very interesting to me. But everybody take care, and we'll see you next time.